I really like this room. Can I redecorate the living room? Of course, this is your castle after all. A high-rise condo with a lush view of the countryside and a vibrant city. My elder brother and his wife were getting excited. It might seem like a charming scene, but it was actually the opposite because that was the home where I, the younger sister, lived with my parents. It would be troublesome if they redecorated without asking. Are you still planning to live here at 40? Still planning to mooch off us? Unemployed shut-in should just leave. I looked to my father for help, hoping he would scold my elder brother and his wife who were trying to kick me out. But he said, I would like to live with my young daughter-in-law too. At that moment, the tension in my heart snapped. I was fed up with my domineering elder brother, his cutesy wife, and my father who doted on her. Then take good care of our parents, I finally decided. I'm leaving. I don't want to see your gloomy face anymore, so get out today. The couple was delighted, thinking they had gotten rid of their parasitic middle-aged shut-in sister. They were looking forward to a glamorous high-rise celebrity life. Little did they know the difficulties that would await them. My name is Sarah Dawson. I'm 40 and single. I live with my elderly parents and help with housework and caring for my father. I work mostly from home with occasional business trips. I've always been troubled by my strong-willed father and brother. My father, who was always unfaithful, spent most of the money on himself, causing constant hardship for our family. Perhaps because of this stress, my brother Mark was violent from childhood, and being 2 years younger, I was always bullied and made to cry by him. Even as an adult, my misfortune continued. Just around the time I got a job, my father was injured and could no longer work. To make matters worse, Mark disappeared with the family's savings. Around that time, my mother, who was already frail, took on part-time jobs to manage caregiving. I also supported the household in tandem with her. On nights when I couldn't come home from my demanding job, I stayed at the office and came back at dawn to help with caregiving. I endured a harsh 20s. I often wanted to run away, but if I did, my mother would have to bear the hardships alone. Although I disliked my father, I couldn't just leave my mother, who had been kind and had suffered through much since my childhood. As I passed 35, my income finally increased, and I started to feel more financially and emotionally comfortable. About a year ago, during a business trip to New York, I came across a wonderful new high-rise condo. Although it was only 12 stories high, it was ideally located near the shopping center with day services and salons for the elderly on the first floor. The facilities, including a gym and spa, were excellent, making it an ideal final dwelling for a healthy, long life. The view was also great, and if you purchased a high-floor unit for $500,000, you could enjoy the seasonal beauty of the great outdoors. The old single-story house in the metropolitan area where we had lived was falling apart from years of neglect amidst our struggles. When I suggested moving, my mother was thrilled and agreed immediately. My difficult father initially hesitated, but when he learned that the high-rise was near a famous tourist spot, he quickly changed his mind and agreed. He probably thought it was something he could boast about to his acquaintances. Taking a bold step, we moved in, and our new life started smoothly. We registered for the day service, made neighborhood connections, and participated in local festivals, enjoying a busy but fun year. My father goes to the day service on the first floor 3 times a week. The staff organizes frequent recreational activities, taking him to the spa and tourist spots. He often sends boastful postcards to relatives and acquaintances. It's a bit annoying that he acts as if he bought the high-rise condo with his own money, but since it doesn't cause any real harm, I ignore it. My mother has made new friends at the senior salon and enjoys participating in community events and volunteering with them. The environment is also perfect for my work, and I finally managed to achieve a peaceful, ideal life. Or so it seemed. However, the peace I had finally found was about to be shattered again. Mark suddenly appeared at the entrance of the high-rise condo. He brought along his wife, Lily, whom he married after having an affair. That day, an ominous intercom rang. Seeing the person on the intercom camera, my heart froze. "Hey, I heard from a buddy you moved, Dad. Where did you get the money to buy such a condo?" For years, Mark had been unreachable, no matter how many times I tried to contact him. He stood there, his flashy shirt unbuttoned down to the second button, wearing sunglasses, and spoke in a thuggish tone.
I asked him coldly, "What do you want?" "What? It's Sarah. I heard from a buddy you quit your job years ago and hardly ever leave the house. Middle-aged shut-in, that's pathetic." I still couldn't forgive my brother because he had caused so much trouble for my mother and me, yet if Mark had shown any signs of remorse, I might have been able to let bygones be bygones and treat him kindly. However, far from apologizing, Mark mocked me, a person he should have been responsible for causing hardship. That made me take a harsher line. "If you have no business here, please leave." "What's with that? I thought I'd introduce you to my wife. I came all this way, open up." Indeed, a woman was standing next to him. I was reluctant because I only had a bad feeling about it. However, my mother said, "We might not get another chance to meet, so I want to see him." So, reluctantly, I unlocked the entrance. To her, Mark is still her dear son, rotten or not. Mark barged into the room and plopped down on the sofa as if he had never run off with money when he was younger. "When did you get married?" "Today. Her divorce was just finalized yesterday." After submitting the divorce papers 6 months ago, Mark put his arm around his wife, Lily, and she boldly intertwined her arm with his. Despite it being the first meeting with her husband's family, she showed no embarrassment or sense of propriety. But there was something else that concerned me even more. "Lily, have you only been divorced for half a year?" "Yeah, stole her from her boring, straight-laced ex-husband. Marky rescued me, even making an enemy of his company. It was so cool." Lily, who was 30, looked her age, but sported a hairstyle and fashion reminiscent of a college student. Plus, she moved in an overly animated manner and spoke in a high-pitched voice. The couple openly glorified the fact that Mark got fired from his job because of the affair, which filled me with disgust. Meanwhile, my father leered at Lily with a deplorable gaze. "Lily, you don't look 30 at all. You seem as young as a teenager, don't you?" "Oh my God, Father, you make me so happy." Lily's clawing voice whipped up a storm inside me. My mother beside me had a stiff expression. "This high-rise condo is beautiful." But my sister rudely asked our father, "Did you take out a mortgage at your age?" He proudly replied, "I paid in full, so we only pay $100 a month for maintenance." Wow, what financial power. I couldn't stand it anymore and wanted them to leave. "Mark, what time are you planning to leave? It's already evening," I asked. "We'll stay here tonight," he said. "That's inconvenient. Didn't you book a hotel?" I replied. "I'm just staying one night at my parents' house." "What's the problem?" he said. "We only have one spare mattress," I added. Lily, blushing and wriggling, said, "I'm fine on the same mattress as Marky." Feeling nauseous, I booked a nearby hotel on my phone and asked them to leave soon. When Mark hesitated and whined, my mother quickly handed him some cash and said, "Stay at a hotel with this. Don't trouble Kathy." Satisfied, Mark left with Lily. "Kathy, I'm sorry for causing trouble," my mother said. "It's okay. Wanting to see your son after years is natural," I reassured her. Remembering how Mark and Lily cunningly extorted money using my mother's kindness, I felt indescribably frustrated. That night, I worked at the living room desk until late, eventually falling asleep there. The next morning, I woke up to my mother's nearly crying shout. Grabbing the blanket she placed over me, I rushed to my room and was stunned by the scene. The room was a mess, with belongings scattered all over the floor. Mark and Lily were stuffing my clothes and personal items into suitcases. "What are you doing?" I demanded. Mark grinned and said, "Your room doesn't exist anymore. You have so many nice clothes. I will take some, okay?" "Stop it, that's enough," I shouted. According to my mother, Mark and Lily had returned first thing in the morning, and my father had let them in without asking. They packed the suitcases and carried them to the living room. "I really like this living room. Can I redecorate it to suit my taste?" "I want to arrange the entire series of that Love is an Early Spring Breeze here," Mark said. "That's Lily's favorite girls comic, right?" "Of course you can. This is your castle after all," my father replied. "It would be troublesome if you redecorate without asking," I said. Mark smirked and asked, Are you still planning to live here at 40? Still planning to mooch off us? Unemployed shut-ins should just leave? I knew Mark was terrible, but I never imagined he would go this far. It's embarrassing for a person to talk about your father's high-rise condo as if it's your own, Mark continued. What are both of you saying? I tried to defend myself, but my mother was abruptly cut off by Mark. Can't you keep quiet, Mom? You raised a 40-year-old who still lives in her childhood room? Mocking me and hurling insults at my mother, I trembled with anger but swallowed it down. Anything I said to this couple would be futile. I looked at my father, seeking help. Surely he would scold Mark now, but he said nonchalantly, I'd like to live with my young daughter-in-law too. At that moment, I snapped. I was fed up with my domineering eldest brother, his cutesy wife, and my father, who was infatuated with her. Then please take good care of our parents, I said, finally deciding to leave. Mark smirked. I don't want to see your gloomy face anymore, so get out today. The couple was delighted, thinking they had gotten rid of their parasitic middle-aged sister and were looking forward to a glamorous, high-rise celebrity life. Little did they know the hardships that awaited them. I was kicked out with just a suitcase and headed to the nearest provincial city to sign a lease on a temporary apartment. I contacted my mother and asked her to send the rest of my belongings there. When I called to thank her for sending my things, she was crying. There's no child more filial than you, Kathy, yet both your father and Mark are too cruel. But the most pathetic is me. I couldn't stop it. Currently unemployed, Mark and Lily were enjoying their dream high-rise life while leisurely job hunting. Lily even said things like, since we're saving on rent, I can be a housewife. It's not your fault, Mom. Anyway, they are the ones who will end up regretting it. Could you help me with what I'm planning to do now? After listening carefully to my plan, my mother nodded and said, if we do this, Mark, Lily, and my husband will go through hell. But those three have done enough to deserve it. I'll help you. Thank you, Mom. I'll send some documents. Then please get Mark to sign them and send them back when the timing is right. About a month later, I suddenly received a call from Mark, who had been out of touch. Hey, I got a notice demanding rent. They're asking for $1,000. What's going on? I confronted Dad, and he says, you bought this house. Were you deceiving me? Wasn't there no mortgage? The one deceiving wasn't me but Dad. As you already know, that room is in my name, and since I paid in full, I have no mortgage. Then why am I being asked to pay rent? I sighed. Parasitic. That's what you called me. But who really is trying to leech off someone? Thinking it was easy to live for free in the house from which you forcibly evicted your sister is like watching a huge boomerang in action. You're the one living there now, so since you're renting from me, it's only natural you pay rent. You did agree, right? Huh? I don't remember agreeing to that. Oh, that's strange. I have the original lease agreement here with your signature on it. There should be a copy of the document at your house, too. The sound of Mark and Lily flipping through documents and freaking out came through the phone. What is this? You really signed it. When did you sign this? I don't know. Oh, wait, I think Mom handed me this document to sign at some point. Huh, so you signed it without checking? Are you an idiot? Shut up. You were there too. We were rushing to go shopping at the time. Why didn't you stop me? Are you trying to blame me? As they began to quarrel, I listened over the phone, enjoying the view from above. Not a bad feeling. Where's Mom? She's become Kathy's minion. It's no use. She's taken refuge with me now and won't be coming back for a while. What? Hey, Kathy, where are you now? Who knows? I don't have to tell you, do I? Speaking of obligations, you have the obligation to pay the rent. Mark stomped his feet in frustration. Damn, I can't pay $1,000 a month. I could hear the sound of Mark smashing something, like a bottle. If you break the floor or walls, I'll charge you for the repairs. Are you a demon? Then Lily, who had exited the scene a bit earlier, came running back frantically. I rummaged through the dresser and found your dad's bank statement. We should be able to manage with this. Huh, 23 cents? Not even $2,300. Isn't the number wrong? Their panic seemed almost like a comedy, and I almost laughed out loud. Did you think Dad had any savings? As soon as Dad couldn't work, Mark, you took everything, remember? Thanks to that, Mom and I struggled a lot. Mark grunted in frustration, and Lily yelled, What do you mean? I haven't heard anything about this. Oh, shut up. Bringing up old stuff. The stolen suffer endlessly while the thief can put it behind them quickly. Convenient, isn't it? By the way, you'll also take care of Dad's day service payments." Mark was silent for a few seconds, not understanding what he was being told. "Wait, what did you just say?" "The payments for the day service. It used to be deducted from my account every month, but I've stopped it. So you'll take care of it now. Isn't the day service fee included in the condo's maintenance fee? That's ridiculous. How far will your fantasy go? Why don't you start facing reality? Goodbye." I hung up the phone in disgust. Mark kept calling persistently afterwards, so I blocked his number and finally it was quiet. Unable to pay the $1,000 rent, Mark and Lily had to leave the condo. When they realized my father had no money, they abandoned him. He tried to turn to my mother for help, but she had changed her location and phone number. With no other choice, he turned to me. "First, I want you to properly apologize for everything," I said. "Also, correct the lies you've boasted in postcards to relatives. Write that the good life in this high-rise condo is thanks to me. Then I might let you stay here again." My father seemed utterly deflated, as if his pride had been shredded. Honestly, he had underestimated me too much. This ordeal should serve as a good lesson for him. Just when I had returned to the high-rise condo and was taking a breath of relief, an ominous chime sounded. When I checked the video intercom, Lily was standing there. "That man is the worst," she exclaimed. I couldn't believe this was the same person who flirted openly with my brother, calling him Marky. He cheated on me right after we moved out of the condo. From what she told me, after they left the high-rise condo, they moved to New York, claiming that the condo was too countrified. "Now we're going to live a sophisticated city life," they said. However, Mark, who had been fired for misconduct, was unlikely to land a well-paying job. He became picky about jobs and remained unemployed, eventually getting hooked on casinos. They lived in a small old apartment, and Lily started supporting Mark with her full-time job. However, as he did nothing but gamble all day, her dissatisfaction grew, and they began to fight every night. Then he cheated. "Talk about poetic justice," I said. "What's poetic justice? I don't understand what you're saying," she replied. I felt a bit sorry for her. "You're quite foolish and terrible yourself, but my brother is even worse. It's a pity. Considering the cheater is unemployed, it'll be hard to collect alimony." After hearing her next words, I soon regretted even a moment of sympathy for her. "So you have money, right? Pay the alimony in his place. It's your fault for kicking us out in the first place." I was baffled by her sudden demand. Once I grasped the situation, I was flabbergasted and firmly refused. "There's no reason for me to shoulder that alimony. Besides, you two were the ones illegally occupying my house." Just as Lily started ranting again, a serious-looking man in a suit and glasses peered into the intercom camera from behind her. "Miss Manning, I've come to pick up the latest chapter of That Wind." Lily was startled and glared at the man. "Who are you?" "Oh, apologies for not introducing myself earlier. I am James, Miss Manning's editor. I'm here to collect the manuscript for the comic That Love is an Early Spring Wind that she is currently drawing." After a pause, Lily started screaming. "What does this mean? Why would the editor of That Wind come here to pick up the manuscript? Wait, could she be—" "Yes, you're thinking right. Could she be—" While I couldn't help but find the situation amusing, I revealed the truth. "Lily, you've collected every volume of the girls' comic That Love is an Early Spring Wind, abbreviated as That Wind. I am its author. Although I had a long period of not selling well, this series, which started about 5 years ago, has become a huge hit. Thanks to its success, I'm now known as a late-blooming comic artist and have earned enough to buy the high-rise condo outright. That Wind is a very important work to me." After a moment of silence, Lily began to tremble. "So every time a new volume was released, part of the money I happily spent was going to you as royalties? You wrote all those thrilling scenes, and I was just being played?" Considering that the author of the comic she revered as her Bible was the sister of the man she now despised, Lily's confusion was understandable. Full of anger and humiliation, she screamed and ran outside, never to return again. Later, I heard that Lily and Mark divorced. Once his affair partner learned that Mark was an unemployed gambling addict, she dumped him. Now, I've heard through the grapevine that Mark is scraping by with a living job, the kind of physical labor he always used to avoid. Since Mark hasn't contacted me, I haven't reached out either. If he were to contact me, it would surely be for no good reason, so I prefer things to stay this way for the time being. My parents and I have returned to our original lives. One thing that has changed is that my father doesn't complain as much as before. He used to grumble about trivial things, but now it seems he can't really talk back to me. By the way, the other day, editor James brought over the results of a reader survey. That Wind has been voted the most popular comic in its magazine. Moving forward, I plan to keep drawing comics for my readers and for myself, surrounded by the beautiful nature that can be enjoyed from this high-rise condo.